Hello, everybody, and welcome to DouglasNow.com's Beyond the Front Page with Robert Preston Jr. I am Robert Preston Jr. Hope everyone had a wonderful holiday weekend. We are recording this on July 5th, one day after the July 4th holiday, and a lot of people are still on vacation. A lot of people are still celebrating. Um, with the fourth falling on a Monday, some people did their vacation the week before, some doing it, the week of. So we do understand that people are still traveling and people are still celebrating. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday. And if you are continuing to celebrate again, hope everybody gets to where they're going to and from safely. Been a lot of bad accidents out on the road. I know on Friday there was a terrible accident over on I-95 just across the state line in Camden County that shut down 95 for 8 or 10 hours and caused traffic disruptions up and down, north and south through Georgia and down into Florida. So everyone be careful if you're going to continue to shoot fireworks off again. Please continue to be careful with that as well. They're a lot of fun. They're pretty to look at, but they can be extremely dangerous. As of today, I have not heard of any major accidents in Douglas, Coffee County, surrounding areas. So very, very thankful for that. But again, July 4th, a wonderful holiday, incredible holiday. When you think back to what our founding fathers did, the risk that they took when they declared their independence, our independence from England, it's really unfathomable. I mean, we think we have a lot at stake now. They had everything at stake back then. And we live in a day and age where some people second guess our founding fathers and don't look at them in a very positive light, but they laid the foundation for what is and will continue to be the greatest nation the world has ever seen. And they did so at great peril to themselves. So there was only one way, or really two ways it was going to end. We were going to win and be an independent nation, and we were going to lose, and every single one of them were going to be hanged for treason. They were willing to make that, to take that risk and put their lives on the line for something they truly believed in. We don't see that much anymore today. So that is why we were able to celebrate the July 4th holiday again, one of the most significant holidays that we have during the year. And it's a time when a lot of people celebrate, a lot of people vacation. But I hope that we do take time. If we haven't, we will over the course of the next few days to sit back and really think how important and how significant this holiday is to each and every one of us. A couple of things I want to talk about here this afternoon, really, as we get into this, just really two topics on our agenda. We're going to see where the second one takes us. There may be several subtopics that we get to, but the first thing I want to do is talk about the county commission meeting that was held on the day that we're taping on Tuesday, July 5th. It should have been on Monday, July 4th. County commission is always the first Monday of each month, but because the first Monday fell on a holiday, we did it on Tuesday. So we'll go over a couple of things from the county commission meeting. And then I want to briefly reference the Twitter war this weekend that erupted between the Biden White House and Jeff Bezos of Amazon. It was really quite funny. And it showed, the entertainment value was pretty good. But outside of that, beyond that, I think the fact that it even took place shows a tremendous lack of understanding with regard to economic policy and with how we need to navigate and how we should navigate what is shaping up to be a fairly significant financial crisis in our country. And as we get into that, I want to reference the Great Depression and Herbert Hoover and a couple of other things that you might not have ever considered, might ever have thought about could be applicable to the situation that we're in now. So we have a very quick and elementary discussion of these issues, as a lot of this stuff is beyond our pay grade. But again, when we're looking at what's happening economically right now, it's really not that complicated. If you want to know why the economy is performing the way that it is, you have to look no farther than your high school economics class. Everything that you were taught in economics in high school, or if you waited until college and took, for me, it was economics 101 at South Georgia College under Dr. Isaac Gaydu. Everything we learned there, everything I learned in Miss Judy Williams's class at Coffee High School when I was a student there. Those principles that we learned in those two classes, those two very elementary, very basic economic classes, show us exactly what's happened right now. And if you remember any of that stuff, you can see exactly where we're headed. Okay. Unfortunately, it appears that some of our policymakers didn't pay attention. They have some of the best and brightest people at their disposal, and they continue to make mistake after mistake after mistake that is leading us down a perilous financial road. So we're going to briefly discuss discuss that. And as I've those of you who have followed us and seen what we've done here in the past, you know that I have no problems talking about something that I know very little about and talking about it for a long time. So we're going to get into some of that. But first of all, county commission meeting this morning. Uh, the most interesting item that came out of the county commission meeting, and a lot of what happened this morning, because this was the first meeting in July. The county commission's fiscal year runs like the city's fiscal year does, runs from July 1 to June 30th. So a lot of what happened this morning was just the normal, basic um, stuff that you do at the beginning of the year, kind of some housekeeping stuff, some contracts that have to be approved. A lot of time spent on those types of items. But there were a few things of note, and we're going to talk about those too, but there were a couple of things that were pretty interesting, not the least of which was one of the last items on the agenda. We're going to talk about it first. The county approved the purchase of a 1994 Freightliner pumper truck for the fire department. Going to cost $27,000. It is located in Michigan. Of course, the county commission said that the fire chief had given, he was out of town. Fire Chief Steve Carver was out of town. But he'd given the truck his stamp of approval, thought it was a good truck, asked the right questions, everything checked out. So they got to go to Michigan and get this truck and bring it back to Douglas. Now, what is significant about this is if you follow the county commission meeting in June, the county purchased a similar truck in Texas for around the same price. I want to say it was a little bit cheaper, but it was basically the same price, mid-20s. Chief Carver and another firefighter went out to Texas, bought the truck, brought it back, made it about maybe an hour or so outside of Texas. I mean, outside of from where they purchased it, and the truck blew out a front tire. I believe it was the right front tire, pulled the truck off the road, rolled it over on its side, totaled it out. So within an hour and a half of purchasing this truck, the truck was laid on its side in the ditch. Now, nobody was hurt, but the truck was totaled. That means we've got to buy another truck. So this 1994 truck up in Michigan will replace the one that the county bought out in Texas, and they're going to follow the same template that they did a month ago. A couple of guys are going to go up to Michigan, going to look at the truck. If everything checks out, they're going to turn around and drive it back down here. They did say, though, in the commission meeting this morning that they were going to put new tires on it. I assume they're only going to put new front tires, the new steer tires on there. If you know anything about trucks, you know anything about equipment, and really it also goes in with cars and pickups too. If a front tire blows out, a lot of bad things can happen, but it's especially true when you're dealing with a heavy piece of equipment like a fire truck, dump truck, semi truck, something like that. When a steer tire blows out, a lot of really bad things can happen. Right, at the very least, you're going to go on a heck of a ride if you can get the vehicle off the road and get it stopped without anybody getting injured. That's about the best outcome you can have. But too many times, what happens is when the tire blows, and of course you're never ready for it. You don't have any warning that the tire's fixing to blow. When it does, a lot of times it's going to yank the truck to that side, whichever tire it is that blows. And if it's a left tire and it pulls you over in oncoming traffic, some really bad things can happen. I know down in South Florida a few years ago, there was a truck hauling a big excavator that blew out a steer tire, and the truck rolled over, killed the driver, and killed a couple of other people as well, caused a tremendous accident that once again clogged I-75 down in Southwest Florida for the better part of a day. All right, now that's the worst case scenario. What happened with our fire truck a few weeks ago, not quite as bad, but still very scary and something that they don't want to have happen again. But I thought that was kind of interesting. As they were going over this and approving it, there was kind of a smirk on everybody's face because they knew this was a replacement from that one. And, we don't typically have stories like that. You don't go buy a piece of equipment and have something like that happen. You always have insurance on them, but you don't expect to use the insurance an hour after you purchase the truck. But that did happen last week. But we're getting another fire truck to replace the one that was involved in the accident a few weeks ago. The county approved an agreement between the health department and the building at 1003 South Shirley Avenue. This is an annual agreement. This is one of the satellite offices that the health department uses. The health department's over on 158 west, across from Coley Electric. But there are a couple of other buildings that the health department uses. One there on Shirley Avenue. They lease that from the county. It's an annual contract. They do it every year. Half of that building is also used by Unison Behavioral Health. And the county also approved that contract as well. Again, just had to extend that contract again. I've been doing that for quite some time. It's a $20,000 a year annual agreement. And it stipulates who takes care of what and who takes care of the building and all that. But it's a pretty good arrangement the county's had with the health department and Unison over the last several years. Again, for as long as I can remember, as long as those buildings have been in place, they've had this arrangement. So nothing too earth-shattering there. Also, there's another building the county owns that Unison uses. It's located at 1005 South Shirley Avenue, and it's again, same thing, annual contract approved, very routine, nothing new. Also, there was a geographic information system services agreement between Coffee County and the Southern Georgia Regional Commission to maintain the road and address GIS. And again, that's Geographic Information Services database. This is for 911. We don't have a GIS department in the county, so we contract with the Southern Regional Commission to maintain ours. Any changes with roads, road names, addresses, things like that, they handle that. Again, we use that database for our 911 system. $2,000 contract, something we do each and every year. Another contract with the Southern Georgia Regional Commission. This is to provide the operation of the senior center. And at the senior center, of course, they serve meals at the center, and then they also prepare meals and deliver them to seniors' homes, to those who can't get out. The senior center is a pretty big project here in Coffee County, and does a tremendous work. And again, this is something that we do every year. It's pretty expensive. It's over $80,000 is what it costs to run the senior center each year. The federal government contributes over $68,000. We get a little over $4,000 from the state. There's also a local match of $8,045. All of that money goes in to running the senior center. That's where the contributions come from. Southern Georgia Regional Commission operates that. And again, these numbers are the same as in years past. So if you have someone in your family, or you yourself are a senior and utilize the the senior center. I have a hard time saying that. The words are too similar. I can't get them out. But it really is a neat project that gives our senior population something to do and a place to go, and provides meals. And it's really, really a neat facility and a neat overall project. But the county contracts again with others to provide that, and we have to approve that at the beginning of each fiscal year. Indigent defense representation in juvenile court. Local attorney Chad White handles that, $14,400, same amount as last year. That's what the county pays him to represent individuals in juvenile court who do not have or are not able to provide or to secure their own legal representation. Same thing in state court. Brian Rumpker handles that. $25,000 to handle indigent defense in state court. Again, same as last year. And the judges in both of these courts approved these individuals and these amounts. So again, nothing earth shattering at all. County also approved transferring 4 Dodge Charger vehicles from the Coffee County Sheriff's Office over to the Board of Education. For the Board of Education's police force. Now, we've talked about this a little bit, but basically the Board of Education has a police department, has had for a year or two, and is beefing that up, hiring more officers. And as a result, they're going to need more vehicles for the officers. And again, this is going to take the job of policing the school systems out of the county's hands and put it solely with the Board of Education. And there are 4 cars, and they didn't say which cars they were, what number. I mean, they got the VINs here, but you can't tell anything off of that. But all the cars have over 150,000 miles on them. So it's not like the brand new cars, and we're probably about to be surplus soon anyway, but they're going to transfer those over to the Board of Education and allow the new officers over there to have those vehicles. So again, we're going to be covering that a little bit more with what our school system is doing to beef up patrols and beef up safety in the school system. Because again, that is a major issue, particularly after what happened out in Texas just a few weeks ago, and that's something we need to cover and discuss locally as well. For those individuals who live on Riverbend Estates Road, River Run Road, Riverbank Drive, and or Riverdale Drive, relief is coming. All right, no, the roads out there have been in pretty bad shape, and there's been a project on the books now for several years to get the roads done. The county has opened up bidding on that project, received 4 bids. The low bid came in from East Coast Asphalt at just under $2 million, about $1.99 million. Although the cost of that, it will be over $2 million before it's all over with, given construction costs, given materials costs, and fuel costs, and all the stuff that's rolling into that. The county expects that to cost a little bit more than what was bid out. But East Coast Asphalt was the low bid for that project and did not give a timeline on when it will begin, but it will begin soon. Also, the county heard a rezoning request from Ansley Guthrie to rezone 8 acres located at 5568 Bowens Mill Road from commercial to warehouse light industrial. Now, if you go out Fitzgerald Highway, this is the warehouse on the right. Used to be the old John Deere place located on the right, basically across the road from the two-way radio shop. That place had been for sale for quite some time. The Guthries bought it. They're going to manufacture small storage sheds. So again, there will be a public hearing at the next meeting. So if you have a stake in that, have any interest in that property whatsoever, the next meeting, which will be the first Monday in August, there will be a public hearing. So if you, again, want to speak for or against that, then please show up at that meeting to let your opinions be heard. Speaking of public hearings, the county held a public hearing to discuss the rezoning of just under 2.4 acres on South Peterson Avenue. Again, so on past the Kubota place, a few hundred yards on the left. Corey Carter is bringing made that request. Going to go from commercial to commercial from R2 residential. Part of it's in the city, part of it's in the county. Planning Commission, county staff approved. Going to be self-storage buildings. So Mr. Carter's going to put up some self-storage buildings there. That public hearing took place today. Nobody was there speaking for or against it. After the public hearing was closed, the county approved that rezoning request. So at some point in the near future, construction will begin on those facilities. So that was pretty much the county commission meeting. Nothing real earth-shattering, kind of the funniest thing. It's really not funny. You kind of look back at it and, everybody kind of had a smirk, but it really wasn't something that was really not something to laugh at, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm trying to say here. Buying the fire truck after the unfortunate incident took place out in Texas. Again, that was near Beaumont, Texas. It was a long way from Douglas. So those guys were figuring that they were going to fly out and drive back, and they ended up flying out and flying back. They got to head up to Michigan now to get the next truck. So, county commission meeting, very, very quick overview of that. Again, a lot of it just normal stuff that they do. First meeting in July to get some of those contracts out of the way, get everything set up to move forward and be able to conduct business through the rest of the year. So that was the big news item of the day thus far. Now, I want to get into a couple of other things here as we wrap up this afternoon. We're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsors. And after we do that, we'll come back and we're going to talk a little bit about economics. And you will want to hang around for that, just for the entertainment value. I can promise you that. There'll be a lot of unintentional humor in this. I'll go ahead and tell you. But we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back in just a second.
So I'm 12 years old. My dad buys a hardware store. Dad worked really hard. He worked 3 jobs. He taught high school science, he ran the hardware store, and he sold insurance at night. Dad's work ethic and honesty has made a big impact on me as an advisor. We learned the value of money. We learned what money could do. Working in that store, we learned what money meant to people. Being a breadwinner, taking care of family, providing a roof over our heads. You know, we worked all these years to get to this place called retirement. And whether you like to fish, golf, go to restaurants, play with the grandkids, travel, a good solid retirement income plan can help you do the things that you want to do. It allows you to retire with confidence. And at Story Wealth Management Group, we work with people in retirement and before retirement. We don't know what to expect in retirement. You've never done it before. But we've worked with hundreds and hundreds of people over the last 25 years to help with that new reality called retirement. At Story Wealth Management Group, we work hard to make sure we address all the issues that may come up to help make sure that you reach your goals. Thank you for allowing me to share my story. But it's not about me. It's about your future. It's about your family. It's about your story.
Welcome back to DouglasNow.com's Beyond the Front Page with Robert Preston Jr. I am Robert Preston Jr. We just finished up talking about the county commission meeting. That is the Coffee County, Georgia County Commission meeting that took place this morning, or the day that we're actually recording this. Now, I want to shift gears and move up to Washington. We're going to jump from the Coffee County Courthouse up to the White House. And again, I promise you, this will be interesting on a purely entertaining level. I can assure you, because this is getting a little bit outside of my area of expertise. But I want to take a look at this, because what happened? There was a little bit of a Twitter war this weekend between President Biden, a few of his advisors, and Jeff Bezos of Amazon. And it started with a tweet that President Biden made regarding gas prices, and it sort of erupted from there. And I didn't follow every single aspect of this, every single tweet, every single message, because that stuff sort of runs together. You end up getting in circular arguments, and I try not to engage in a lot of internet debate anyway, because at some point you just lose the point and the general idea of what you're trying to make, and it just turns into something really, really silly. So I try not to get into those debates, but I will follow one a little bit for, purely for entertainment purposes. But basically, President Biden sent out a tweet over the weekend that just said, gas retailers, fuel retailers need to lower the prices that they're charging. Just don't charge as much at the pumps. Americans need help. Americans need relief. Gas, diesel fuel, it's all too high. Just charge less money. And Bezos fired back and said, basically, that's not how it works. And then went on to explain a little bit about the market and why you can't just do that. And then everything just sort of escalated from there. And as I followed it and read it, a couple of things popped into my mind. And first of all, it's the complete lack of understanding. And I don't think I'm overstating this, the complete and total lack of understanding that I think that the Biden administration in particular, but the left in general, have with regard to market forces, economic policy, and what drives the market. And the kind of funny thing about this is none of these policymakers are poor. Okay, nobody in Washington's poor. Nobody who is in the president's cabinet, the president himself, senators, representatives, their staffers, none of these people are poor. Okay, to get involved in government and really, you can have a job and be a state representative, but after you get above state representative, you don't have a job anymore. Your job is your position. State senators, every single state senator in Georgia is independently wealthy, very wealthy. Okay. These guys have a tremendous amount of territory they have to cover. They have a number of people they have to represent. It is a full-time job. There is something going on in each one of these counties, usually multiple things going on in each county every single day. And I forget how many miles it is in our state Senate district from the top to the bottom, but it's several hundred miles. You really can't travel the district in one day, not and accomplish anything. You can stop by and say, hey, and take a picture and, kiss a baby and do a fist bump and move on, but you really can't accomplish anything in any of our communities in our state Senate. That's just state Senate district. Never mind House districts. And then as a United States Senator, where there are two of you for the whole state, all right, once you get above state representative, and really you're not going to find very many state representatives who are what you, I mean, none of them are going to be what we would consider poor. For most of us, the state representatives are going to be fairly affluent. Okay. Now, they would probably say they're not affluent compared to the state senators or compared to the governor. The governor doesn't have a very big salary. The governor doesn't make a lot of money. But you've got to have a lot of money to become the governor. You are independently wealthy outside of that position. And as an interesting footnote, one of the reasons that the governor and the Board of Regents always seem to fight is because the people at the Board of Regents, particularly the college presidents, president of the University of Georgia makes a pile of money. Georgia Tech president makes a pile of money. Georgia Southern, all of these folks make an enormous amount of money. They make way more than the governor does. I'd be willing to bet that the president here at South Georgia State College makes more money than the governor does. So the governor is trying to deal with people who make way more money than he does in the course of their everyday job. So, but while you may not make a lot of money in those particular positions, you have to have a lot of money to get them. So it's almost beyond me when I fathom the fact that these folks in Washington are all stupid rich and they can't seem to understand basic economic policy. All right. And maybe stupid rich is a good term for them. I don't know. But I remember thinking, when the stimulus money came out, I remember thinking, we're headed for some dark economic times if this goes through. Now, and this doesn't fall completely on the Democrats' shoulders, because I believe the first round of disaster payments or COVID payments, whatever you want to call them, got approved under President Trump. All right. I believe some of that stuff was already in the pipeline before Biden took over. But of course, it picked up under Biden, and there's still talk of more stimulus payments, of more relief payments. I remember thinking when I was in high school in Miss Judy Williams's class, I mentioned Miss Williams in my introduction, in her class, as she was explaining what happens when you artificially pump money into the economy, what happens? You devalue the dollar. Okay. you devalue the dollar and you cause inflation. Now, I'm not smart enough to sit here and understand exactly how that happens and the market forces that are in place that cause that to happen. But I remember very specifically, if you artificially pump money into the economy, you're going to devalue the dollar. And as a result, inflation will take place. All right. And I remember when I was listening to the outline for these stimulus payments, and some of them came at the state level. They came at the state level and came at the national level. And listen, we've got a Republican majority in Atlanta. We got, there was state money, there was federal money, and I'm sitting there thinking, this is just bad. This is just bad. Yeah, you're going to get a short-term relief, but in the long term, it's going to be bad. Now, fuel prices were already going up. As soon as the headlines hit, because there was a little bit of uncertainty after the election as to who exactly won the election. And even though everything was pointing toward Biden winning, nobody officially declared Biden the winner for a few weeks after the election. But within hours of the headlines hitting that Biden had in fact won the election, fuel prices started going up immediately. So when people say the president doesn't control fuel prices, you're absolutely right. The president doesn't sit at his desk each morning and look around and say, well, what do I want the average price of gasoline and diesel fuel and oil and whatever else to be this particular day? That's not what happens. However, the market forces and the confidence in the market based on who is in charge ebbs and flows with who is in charge. And everybody knows, regardless of what you want to say, and I hate to get into all the partisan stuff, but regardless of what you want to say, everybody knows that the energy policies of the Democratic Party are in stark contrast to the energy policies of the Republican Party. The Democratic Party does not like fossil fuels, does not like internal combustion engines, doesn't like gasoline, doesn't like diesel fuel, doesn't like that kind of stuff. So the policies that they are going to implement if they're in charge are going to be very different than what Republicans are. So once that switch happened, it went from a Republican commander-in-chief to a Democratic commander-in-chief. The market forces went to work. So no, it's not one person calling the shots, but it's the market reacting to the policies, the anticipated policies of those who are in charge. And within hours, I was driving the day the headline hit. I was actually driving. I had driven a semi truck up to South Carolina. I watched diesel fuel prices climb over 20 cents a gallon within a couple of hours. Diesel fuel was under $2 a gallon in South Carolina, while in the latter days of the Trump presidency. Within hours of Biden being named the winner, fuel went up to about $2.20 a gallon. And then it has only continued to climb since then. So I know the president doesn't set prices, but the market reacts to who's in power. And it seems that those who are in power now don't understand how these market forces work. And, that's what Jeff Bezos tried to explain to, in a Twitter battle. That's not how it works. And what worries me is there seems to be a lack. I think there's a true lack of concern. I think there's a true lack of empathy. I think there's a big disconnect between Washington and what people are really going through. Okay. What's happening now hurts, but this isn't the worst hurt we're going to receive. It's going to get a lot worse, and this is not. And I don't want it to get worse. Okay, I don't want this to. I hope I'm wrong. But this stuff, okay, I keep talking about these market forces, these economic indicators. It takes time for them to run their course, and we haven't reached the peak yet. Okay, we haven't. It's going to continue to get worse. And I think there is, I really do. I do believe there's a plank of the Democratic Party that wants to see a completely shift from the type of energy that we use now to green energy. All right. I don't think we're ready for that. And at the end of the day, let me say this. At the end of the day, I don't care. I don't care what makes my car or my truck run, as long as my car and my truck run. As long as I can get, if I can get the same performance or similar performance out of an electric vehicle as opposed to a gas or diesel powered vehicle, I don't care. Just give me the performance and give me the reliability and give me the cost effectiveness with regard to maintenance. See, one of the things that I'm scared about with electric vehicles, and we've had Teslas out long enough now where we can start to see what it costs to maintain one. But the maintenance. Now, as I think about the maintenance on these electric vehicles, it seems to me that there's probably fewer things that can go wrong on an electric vehicle than there are on a gas powered vehicle. However, those problems that can happen on an electric vehicle, I would think would be costlier than what would happen on a standard gas powered vehicle. So again, and I'm speaking a little bit out of ignorance there, but I don't see anybody repairing Teslas in Douglas and Coffee County. All right, and I don't have one. But you know what? I would like to have one. I have always liked Teslas. So while I have some concerns, that there's a part of me that would like to have one. But the biggest concern that I have is the maintenance side of it. How are we going to fix it? What happens? Replacing batteries. Listen, I sold a golf cart one time. I had a battery powered golf cart. I sold a golf cart one time for like $150 because I didn't want to replace the batteries. The batteries went out in it. I think the batteries were $1,000 or so, $800, maybe more. I don't know. This was, geez, I don't know, 2008, 9, somewhere in there. So I can't remember what batteries cost, but I remember a bunch of batteries. I pulled the seat up on that golf cart. There were a bunch of batteries in that golf cart. And instead of replacing all those batteries, I just sold it. Basically gave it away. Somebody come get it. Come get it. Give me $100. You can have it. That was pretty much what I did with it. Batteries in a Tesla, $20,000. That's more than an engine. That's more than, even if you go out and buy a brand new diesel pickup and you have to replace the motor in it, you're probably not going to be 20,000. You're going to be right at it. You're not going to be any more than that. And that's the worst case scenario with one of those. And this is just batteries in a Tesla. So I have some concerns, but I think that there's a segment of the Democratic Party that is willing to let Americans suffer through high fuel prices in order to achieve a green energy outcome on the other side. And I think that's pretty dangerous because we're not far enough into electric vehicles and into green energy such that we can put our standard modes of transportation behind us. And there aren't a lot of electric semi trucks out there. Tesla's making them. They're taking orders. And listen, I've read up on the Tesla semis, and I'm not scared of them. There's a part of me that is extremely, extremely interested in that finished product once it gets to where you can have one. But right now, you can have all the electric vehicles you want. You can drive all the Teslas you want or the Chevy Volts or whatever you got. But what moves this country is still diesel fuel, semi trucks, trains. That's what's moving goods and services around our country. All right. And if you let diesel fuel climb and you let it continue to climb, you're going to see prices in the stores, what have you, and restaurants skyrocket. All right. Because that's the business we're in. And you can't operate these commercial vehicles. And I'm talking about more than just trucks. We're talking about trains, airplanes. You can't operate those below a certain level. As fuel goes up, your freight rates are going to go up. I know that freight rates have in some cases almost tripled from what they were. I used to drive every day from 2014 to 2017. I drove every single day and still drive a pretty good bit. I know that fuel prices have almost tripled in the last 2 years. I know that freight rates have gone up accordingly. All right. And as freight rates go up, so do the prices of the products that we deliver. So it's all one big chain reaction. But I think there's some folks the Democratic Party who are willing to let this stuff happen so so that we get a green energy outcome. And we're just not ready for that. We're just not ready for it. And it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot of people. And I just wonder, you know, how much do they understand? And part of that goes back to the fact that they are very wealthy. They're sort of insulated. Their wealth insulates them from the struggles that you and I feel. Okay. Because there are times we have to make decisions. I have to make these decisions, and I know a lot of you do too. You know, do I want to go out and eat dinner with my family tonight, or do I want to fill my vehicle up with gas? You know, what's more important? And I, you know, I've heard some people making some jokes before that when you're sitting at the gas pump, you shouldn't have to make uh, you shouldn't have to be making life decisions at the gas pumps. And it's not quite that bad yet, but we do have to make temporary decisions. What do I want to do? What do I want to do? You know, do I want to put gas in my vehicle, or do I want to, you know, go out to dinner? Those are questions that people are asking. But I don't think the folks in Washington are asking those questions. They don't have to. Again, there's a tremendous disconnect between what's happening in our nation's capital and what's happening to us. All right. It kind of reminds me of Herbert Hoover in the Great Depression. Now, he has a reputation of being very uncaring and very lackadaisical with regard to how he handled the Depression. That in some ways he was willing to let people suffer because he felt like the market would correct itself. That's not exactly what's happening here with Biden, but I do think that the Biden administration, on some level, is willing to let people suffer to move away from fossil fuels and to green energy. Hoover was the 31st president of the United States, president from 1928 to 1932. As it turns out, Hoover had was pretty hands-on with regard to how he handled the Great Depression, but he was still very conservative, and he developed a reputation that defeated him. He was a one-term president, all right, and sort of opened the door for FDR and the New Deal. Actually, Herbert Hoover's are rather fascinating. I love presidential trivia anyway. The presidents are all fascinating individuals. But Herbert Hoover starting to get a little better review from historians now that we're getting close to a century after he was elected. Interestingly enough, Hoover never ran for office until he ran for president and won handily. But I know the reputation that he has as someone who was willing to let people suffer because of his inattention to economic issues. My grandmother was a Democrat till the day she died, and I asked her one time. I said, "Why are you such a ferocious Democrat?" And she said, "Herbert Hoover." My grandmother was born, oh goodness, maybe in 1912. Yeah, my grandmother was born in 1912. So when Hoover was elected, she was 17, 18 years old. And her family was fairly well to do when the crash happened, and they lost everything. And she dog cussed Herbert Hoover till the day she died, swore up and down he caused the Great Depression. Didn't necessarily cause it, but his reputation is one that he was very unsympathetic and allowed people to suffer. And as a result, his legacy has suffered and continues. Again, historians are starting to change their view, but for the most part, he still is not thought of as a very good president. And I feel like we're headed that way with Joe Biden. Now, listen, I don't want to see the Biden presidency fail. I don't want to see anybody fail. What I want to happen is I want our country to prosper, and I want all of us to prosper. But we're not going to prosper under the current economic policies that we have. It's just not going to happen. And I think that the Twitter war between the Biden White House and Jeff Bezos this weekend showed that. I just don't think there's any real true understanding of how the market forces work and how it affects everyday Americans. And I think we're seeing that right now, and we're going to continue to see it. And it bothers me because I think things are going to get worse before they get better. Listen, thank you guys for watching. Again, I do appreciate it. I hope everyone had a wonderful, wonderful 4th. And as we head through the rest of this week, which again, a lot of it is a holiday week, as we move through this, everybody enjoy themselves. Have fun. Be safe. Stay cool. It is brutally hot outside. So, but everybody enjoy the rest of this holiday week. We'll be back with you next week. Y'all have a great week, a great weekend. We'll see you next week at the same time, same place. You've been watching DouglasNow.com's Beyond the Front Page. We'll see you next time.